Uh, let's học cái gì đó. Để tiếng nhỏ nhỏ thôi thì mình nghe được video chứ. Photoshop interface.
So let's learn something about the Photoshop interface and
The secret behind the great production, like feed post production, resolve file. Phải giải nén hết lúc này à? Chết. Giải nén đống này chắc hết cả tối luôn. Ok. Install. Thật ra là có tiếng Việt đấy. Có này. Bây giờ tiếng Anh nhé. Cái gì đây? Là gì đâu? Run. Mẹ. Ok. Chúng ta sẽ học một cái gì đấy. Vào đi.
so let's learn something about the Photoshop
Vậy cho cái tiếng này nhỏ thôi.
interface and how to improve it a little bit. First of all, on top here we have the main menu, which is divided by topics. Here we have tools, and you can use tools to do different things on the image. And here we have the option menu. And once you select a new tool of files, find a book to go to the next one of the CMY image is storing.
Khoan. Mình vẫn muốn để cái nhạc gì đấy cho nó hay nhưng mà 2%.
At the moment. And here you have a small asterisk, which means that this image, this file is not saved yet. Okay, so this is going away when you save at the moment. And here you have a small asterisk, which means that this image, this file is not saved yet. Okay, so this is going away when you save the file. Well, that's it. Now, this is the canvas, and you can, of course, zoom in, zoom out. In gray, you can right click here, custom color. Gray is a lot better, a lot easier.
Dạy Photoshop đấy à?
Here,
Thôi thì tôi tua nhanh tí xem học được gì không. Cái này biết rồi.
Looking down your image, you have a slider here, and you can change the exposure. You can preview the exposure, or you can have here different kind of information, like I don't know, document size.
Cái này bật đại một cái file Photoshop nó lên đây nhỉ. À quên, ngáo thế. Phải shop gì nặng. Ngáo thật. Để này thôi. Rồi. Sao? Có gì? Bấm vào đây thì xem được cái này. Cái này là document size. À, document size 27 MB á. Cái gì mà 27 MB? Nặng lắm á nha. À đúng rồi. Timing. Scrot size. Scale 1 pixel bằng 1 pixel. Wow. Save progress. Smart object. Private habit. Diffusor. Layer count. À, chưa biết cái này đâu nhá.
Mark object number, document profile, which is color profile where that you use to save image, and etc. Document dimension, which is pretty cool because you can check how big is the file in a matter of seconds. Now let's clean this interface because there's some panels we never going to use. So for example, the Learn tab, you can
Close.
close it. So right click on the main here and click on close.
À quên. Mà mình chắc là đang có cái mặt của Kari. Ok. Mình sẽ cho nó xuống đây đi. Kari face. Ấy à, từ từ. Đây chứ. Ok.
Same for the libraries. Close.
Close.
Layers, channels, and path. They are pretty important, probably the most important. So we need to keep them for sure. And if you look down here in the layers and channels and path, basically you have some option here. And in the layer tab, you have adjustments, which is the small circle icon divided by in two. And so here we have all the adjustments we need and that's for this reason we don't need this. Don't need this panel, so we close this one. And properties is pretty important because once you have, for example, an adjustment, I don't know, a curve adjustment, and you want to change the curves, the values of your image, because couple of monitors, this property mode where this basically move this canvas around. Control plus when when you are done with the image, or you want to show the image someone else, like full screen, or it's just for you, and you want to check the image a lot better because you don't have the interface around. You can Control R again to turn off the rulers, and that's it. Okay, so if you press F again, you go back to normal view, but I prefer the free mode, this one, so I can move my image a little bit on the left and have the properties here. Now another things you can take away is the color top. Now the reason is post-production for ArcVids, you're not going to use this as much as you think. And when you need a color, you can always click on here and get the color from here.
True.
So this is a
Có
lot of space which we can use in a better way. So
cái cách nào để tua nhanh hơn tí không nhỉ? Playback. Speeder. Faster.
close the tab color. We close this watches tab. And what we can do here, we can go in. Now the navigator is this small tab, and understand better, match a photo. But anyway, navigator, it's cool, and we are going to use navigator is going to tell you if you are doing a good job, showing you all the values of your image.
Show cái gì đây?
We need the histogram. The histogram is a very cool feature because
is showed among a pixel on the y-axis. The image contains the zero. Okay.
The histogram
Chụp y là show the. Okay.
is basically showing you all the values of your image, and if you have the histogram, you can understand, I don't know, if you have too many values, too dark, or maybe too many values too bright, or etc. It's very important to see the histogram of an image. Make
Okay.
a new adjustment, curve adjustment, just because you want to see the histogram. Okay, so this is something you need to keep with you all the time, and you can keep it small, it doesn't matter really. And if you want to,
Từ đi, tắt cái lạnh quá. Ngồi trong nhà cũng lạnh nhá, rất cáu. Học cái này chắc mất cả tháng mất. Nhìn có vẻ hơi căng. Đẩy nhanh đi.
if you want, you can expand back the extracting. You will see that during post-production we are going to hide the colors many times, because colors are kind of distracting what your eyes and your brain. So once you have no colors, as you can see, the histogram is so much cleaner and understandable. Okay, so here you have black tones, and here black values, and here you have bright values. Anyway, histogram, so important. We need that. We need it, and then we can have here on this small, basically vertical back, and instead of click on Control Z. And then here you can have also brushes, which is pretty important, because you can have we are going to use brushes, so why not having them here, just to check them, how it's gonna work. Character, and then size, we can there's really not a lot more to know. Actions are basically comments that you can record once, and then Photoshop will basically play in a matter of milliseconds. I don't know, like you find yourself doing the same things over and over many times in a day, like, I don't know, importing a mask or making a mask. Well, you can record yourself making it only once, and then you can press an hotkey, and it's gonna work fine. Now you have the interface like this. You can go here, Windows, workspace, and then you can click on a new workspace, and then you can write a name here, like, I don't know, I write Rob test 01, and of course you can have keyboard shortcuts also, are back to the original workspace. Let's reset everything. You see this is ready for playing. Another cool thing about the interface is that if you have more than one image open in Photoshop, you can go to Window, Arrange, and then you can basically put them side by side, because maybe you want to see the difference between them. Then you can go back to default by clicking on Consolidate all two tabs, and as you can see, we are back to the original view. Then if sometimes and I want to have another file, and in this way, you see, we have another tab here, which is exactly the same file, as not another file, as the same file, but this is an instance of the canvas. And so we can take this one, we can drag and drop it down here, we can resize it like this, we can alt, we can scroll, these are like the same image. Actually, you see, if I make a new layer on this one and I paint something, you see, it will basically shown on the small change when you release the mouse, or you do something with the keyboard and you release the key. That's it. So it's very useful.
Khác quá xin đăng ký bây giờ.
Mainly if you have two monitors, you can take this window here on a second monitor, and maybe you can, in this one, you can zoom in, a lot, and because you want to copy from it, you can open the image, let's say this one, and then you can drag and drop these tab, or let's
Ok, video 1 không gì hấp dẫn lắm. Wacom tablet quick setup.
don't care or reason mouse. Anyway, it's really important to, you know, has the right sensitivity the one driver. So what thickness on press any kind of in a need to open the control panel. Okay, so go to Windows control panel, you change the view by small, and you have to deactivate completely press and hold. So you click on settings, and once it's like this, on draw something you do is you version and
Đại khái là cái này nói về setup Wacom.
settings of
Mình thì có nhưng mà
change. I click when I go here, close, in terms of you know, you see if the cat do you know, if you have
chưa cần thiết. File size and type. Exercise à? Có file không? Hay như nào? Shop resource file 1.3. Đây là 1.6.2, 1.6.3. Đến bài 3 mới có tiếp. Rồi ok. Gì đây? Abandoned building. Beach. Concentrate. Ấy. Ok. Windows 9. Ok, hiểu. Cái này hay này. Hay thật. Ngoài đồng. Cái cũng hữu dụng đấy. Nhưng mà kiểu mấy bài 1 chấm này chưa cần.
file type is the PSD with the content. Do is you say PSD and then you just done tag or a file depending on the purpose of the final image. Well, the thing is, in Archivets we don't PSD because PSD has a limit, which is 2 GB, and because we work with XR files, which are HDRIs, which has lots of information inside. If you start saving a PSD, you will encounter some problems very soon. So what to do instead of saving a PSD? We just go here, File, Save As, and we choose PSB, which is the second form. And of course here, you want layers because you want to save the layers you have in the file. And the ICC profile. The ICC profile is like the ID card of your image. I would say that when you have an image, there is color profile with it, and it's a sort of basically area that said, okay, all your colors in the image belongs to this chart, belongs to this. I would say it looks like a volume, but it's not exactly like 3D volume. But anyway, if you save the ICC profile with the file, then someone else can open your file and see exactly the same image. Otherwise, if you forget about saving the ICC profile, then the file your PSB, your TIFF, whatever, is basically without ID card. And if someone else opens it, then the Photoshop will ask him, do you want to open this image with, I don't know, this profile? And maybe, it happens all the time, is a different profile that the one you had. And so, long story short, you save the image, somebody else open it, and he gets something different. So please remember, this is important. You need to save the ICC profile within the image. It doesn't matter which one. Probably if you're working with Windows, is sRGB. If you're working with Mac, is Adobe RGB. But anyway, you need to save it. And more important than that, you need to pick a file type, okay? A file type that allow you to save the ICC profile. Because some types, you know, like Targa, for example, you know, you cannot store the ICC profile in them. And so
Ok, thử xem nhé. CPS PSP. Đây, phải tích vào đây nè. Ok, đấy hiểu. Phải tích vào cái đấy nha.
So, you know, it happens to me like years ago that I had to print some images and the printer always made a terrible job, but at the end I discovered it was my fault because I didn't save the ICC profile within the image because I was sending him Targa files. So please remember about this. Now, when you save, you know, you save the PSB, and of course, you can keep working and everything is all right. Now, a couple of things. When you save, when let's say that your job is done, the image is done, what to do? Well, there's many options to save. I mean, you can go here and press, you know, save as, and then, you know, choose like, I don't know, JPEG, and see IC profile always on, and then you save the JPEG, and then when you save the JPEG, it's gonna ask you for, you know, quality. Well, now this is kind of, you know, I don't like this because I can just see a slider and I don't even, I mean, I don't really get an idea of what I'm doing, right? So instead of this, normally, especially when I have to save stuff for internet, I don't know, I need to post an image on forum or on Facebook or wherever, I go here, file, and then I click on export, and then, and sorry, don't click, I just pick export, and then I click on here, save for web. Even if this is basically a legacy thing, so it's kind of old, but actually at least I can see the results. So I can just go here, and it's taking a lot, okay, because the image is big. I can go on JPEG and I can check how the JPEG looks like if I go, I don't know, down with the quality. And you can see, of course, now there's a lot of, you know, artifacts, and it's terrible. It looks terrible because the quality is too low. But you know, you can choose the amount of quality you want. Then you can have more options, like, I don't know, optimized for, you know, the web, progressive. Progressive is basically when, you know, you have an image online, and it get better and better as the time pass by. You know, of course, you need to embed the color profile, but there's a cool thing here. There is here a small button on the top right, and you can click on optimize the file size, and this small pop-up will appear, and you can say, okay, I want this image to be, I don't know, 200 kilobytes, and then if you pick current settings, it will keep JPEG as a format type, which is exactly what I want, because GIF, you know, is terrible for images. Then I press OK, and then automatically Photoshop will calculate, you know, a bunch of settings here to give me a file which is under 200 kilobytes, which is very, very cool, because, you know, sometimes you have limits, and then you need to stay within those limits. Anyway, this is pretty cool. If you want, then, you know, you can just copy the quality. I mean, 59 is almost like 6 on the slider. But, you know, I really love this interface because I can see how the image would look, you know, like the original one. You see, if you click on 2 up, you can see the original one and the one I'm saving. So you can basically you know, find the differences, and of course you want less amount of differences possible.
Nó đang nói là cái save for web này á, nó sẽ gọi là kỹ hơn là save as. Kỹ hơn là save as ở cái đoạn Ctrl Shift S. Đó, đầu tiên là JPEG. Ok, sao để zoom nhỏ lại đây à? To ra. Ok. Download in multiple pass. Ông ấy bấm vào cái này nữa. Rồi kéo cái này lên 100. Ok, 2 up. 2 up nhưng mà lại từ từ xem nào. Khoan đã. Gì khác nhau? Đây là original này. Mình không thấy khác nhau lắm nhỉ. Mình chả thấy khác nhau đâu. Đấy thấy khác nhau. Thôi được rồi. Nghĩ là cái này chắc nó sẽ chi tiết hơn chứ không phải là nó tối ưu hơn.
But anyway, normally what I do is I save a JPEG, because JPEG is something that you can send by email, and JPEG is fine if you want to go online on internet, on forums, and it's fine if you want to work with if you are working in sRGB. But when you want to send something to, I don't know, you need to print your image, because I don't know, it's an interior shot, and you are trying, you don't probably, he's gonna ask you for a CMYK format. So what to do in that case? I mean, what you need to do is to go, I mean, normally I do this on another file, not in the same file, so this one will stay RGB forever. But then I make I take the final image and I bring it into another file, like, I don't know, I press Ctrl Alt Shift E to make a new screenshot of the image. I right click, duplicate layer, and I bring it into a new file.
Okay.
You see document destination new, and now we are into a new file, and here we can go like this, color settings, and we can check here. We have RGB, which is sRGB because we work in Windows.
Ctrl K, sRGB, okay.
And CMYK is the color profile that is used when you print an image on paper. If you are working with, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So what to do now? Well, you need to call the guy that is going to print the image, and he is able to say which one of the profile they are using to print. That's all. That's so simple. Okay, this is not something that belongs to you. That's not something about you. That's something about them, or the guy. I mean, whoever prints the image for real. So they said, okay, we use coated Fogra 39, and that's it. You pick the profile they told you to pick, and now the thing is this: you are lucky. If you are lucky, then the preview will show you the image without differences. But if you are unlucky, then something will change, and the reason is in the sRGB space there are many more colors than in the CMYK space. And so if you are using some of those colors that they are here but they are not.
Thế thì nếu tao cái này đúng không? Swap V2 đổi chưa vậy? Chả thấy đổi gì. Ctrl Y đúng không? Nó bật hơn nhiều á. Thử bây giờ thử đổi sang CMYK. Không, thôi, quên đi.
Here, example, Aeroscale uncoded V, and click on it. Basically, it changed by a little. So the Aeroscale uncoated V2 has less blue colors than the. You can control again, and we press OK. Remember, if you want to see the preview of the setup, you need to go here and select the work in CMYK and then click on proof colors. And you need to convert this because of the preview. Okay, suggesting you to dot layers. Just you know, issues, I would say. So if you go here, if we go back here, you go to duration of the blue color, and we change from Fogra 27 to, for example, Aeroscale. You see, we lose all the saturation of the blue color up there. And by the way, I mean, that's not up to you. So you need to be aware of what to do is this.
Ok, tóm tắt lại là ông nào đi in thì cẩn thận. Đấy, đại khái thế
set
đó.
up this immediately as at the CMYK about the file
Mình
size
không in bạn đấy.
190
Không cần học cái này.
the DPI an inch, and an inch is basically you know, a distance, is a measure, and on the screen, if you have a lens, if you take a photo and you measure, you will find exactly 72
72 72
pixels inside an inch.
Oh.
But you know, when you have to print images on paper or on billboards, then this is completely different. Let me explain. Let's take, for example, a magazine. Be perfect. That means in an inch, you need more than 72 pixels, than 72 points, because you know, when we print, we are not talking about pixels, we are talking about points, because the printer just drop some ink on the paper, and each drop is basically a point. Now, for a high quality magazine, you normally have 300 dpi, which means the magazine amount may be, you can try your much, it says that the probably file per meter be like I don't know, 200,000.
Đoạn này nói về
The
DPI mình muốn nghe.
is the billboard is, I don't know, could be 4 meters by 3, and how far you are from the billboard when you look at it. I mean, you're pretty far. So if you get close to the billboard, you can try yourself, find one in your city. You will see that you don't have 300 dpi on the billboard, because there's too much. It's an overkill, I would say. You probably have 60 dpi, because from far away, 60 points every inch, it's enough to give you a good looking a billboard. A 300 dpi file, 300 dpi image, big, 4 meter by 3, because 200,000 pixels wide, and like, I don't know, 30 gigabyte of on the hard drive. You will never go that close to the good point. You call the guy that you call again. So, and you can change DPI as create pixels, or many points you have in an inch. And if it's a catalog, probably they will tell you 300, and then you press create, and you have exactly the size in pixels of the image you have to render. So you can go here, up here, you see 4,960. This is pretty cool, because you don't have to make up any number. You can just read those numbers, put them in 3ds Max, and render that size. Meanwhile, if you need to make a billboard, probably these dimensions are not as much as they're not enough. So let's say we have a 300 centimeters billboard by 200, so 3 meter by 2 resolution. Now, if you call the printer guy and then you ask him, I have a billboard, I have to make a 3 meters by 2 billboard. What's the resolution you need for the image? They will tell you probably 60.
This is how much they are going to tell you probably, 60 or 100, but not more, because if you have more, it's going to be too much for them to handle. And you create, and again you go here, image size, and you see that this is the dimensions in pixels of your billboard. So 4 meters by what is that, 1,000. Save an image you used to to test the image. Down with the quality, of course. See, instead of having nice gradients, you start to have like less colors and bad gradients. Of course you will lose something, but it depends on the file type you go with, and the quality, of course. For example, JPEG is extreme about compression. PNG is a lot better, but also PNG has as you see is like 2 megabytes. So of course you have better output, but you have also higher weight in terms of megabytes. Another thing that really matters is about channels, and that's because if you look at the image itself like this, I mean, you are not thinking about it, but this image is the result of 3 different channels. You have the red channel, you have the green channel, and you have the blue channel. And the fact that we have 3 different channels results, they are not the same. It means that it's like saving 3 different black and white images. Okay, so if you have a black and white image, is going to weigh 1/3 of an RGB image. But sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you can't. So that's why probably a glossiness map, which is black and white, will be 1/3 in terms of megabyte of a diffuse or a base color, which is in color. Okay, so that's it. Remember to be online. Well, you
Mark the lesson complete and go to the next video. Ok. Video này thì chưa học được nhiều lắm. File size, image depth, cái này toàn mấy cái khái niệm. Thật ra có thể là mình biết rồi nhưng mà mình muốn
So when we talk about image depth, we need to take a few steps back and understand a few concepts. First of all, what is a bit? A bit is a space of memory, and you can store a couple of values in there, 0 or 1. Now, if you add another 7 bits, you have a 8-bit value, and with 8 different binary numbers, you can define a value that goes from 0 to 255. Now, why that? Because if you elevate 2, which is the number of possible digits, now because the number of bits to the number of possible memory spaces, you have 2 elevated to 8, which is 256. Now, because 0 is anyway a value, which is black, and 255 is a value, which is white, if in total we have 256 values. Now, this number of values, you need to consider that by channels. So if you, for example, I go in this image, which is an 8-bit image, you can read it from here, and you go into the channels, and I want to see the red channel. Now the red channel is in black and white, and also the green one, and also the blue channel. So what you normally see as a colored image is nothing but 3 different channels that mixed together gives you colors. Now what that means that the red channel show how much red we have. So if the red channel is white somewhere, then probably there's more red in that area than in this area. Same for the green, same for the blue. Okay, so for example, here on this moose statue, we have less blue than red, as you can see from the channels. Now, if you pick any pixel here in channel, like, I don't know, I pick this one, this pixel here, we will see, because this is a black and white image, these three values will be always the same, because, you know, is 71, you know, a 71 gray, I would say. And you need to remember these values can go from 0 to 255, okay, from black to white. So this gray is 71. Now, if you go online and you search for, you know, some kind of translator, you will see that 71 in decimal is, you know, another value in batch. That's they look at this is other elements. So when you do some adjustment, you kind of push the pixel to reveal other informations that with the highest image that possible, because you can do more things if you have more data to use. Okay, let me explain. Now look at this 8-bit image. What we're going to do now is to go up with the exposure by 3. So I mean, this is not a workshop, this is not a tutorial on post-production, this is just, you know, a test to see if the images will keep enough data, you know, while we are doing the post-production. So in this case, we have exposure is a +3 f-stop, so some areas will of course be overexposed now. And if we go back to 0, so if I put another exposure that goes -3, as you can see, we lost a lot of informations. Okay, so if I just, you know, hide those two adjustments, you will see that, for example, we lost all the informations here on this kind of orangey areas. Okay, and the same if we do this with the 16-bit image. If we add this, you see, we, you know, we lose, you know, those informations, because, you know what, these are extreme adjustments. So we are really testing this to the limit. We are pushing this to the limit. So an exposure of +3, you know, means that this image needs to have so many hidden informations to, you know, to reveal that is not possible to do it right now with a 16-bit format. Okay, with 60,000 possible values for each channel. But in the 32-bit, if we do the same, see, this is exposure +3 and this is exposure -3, we don't lose those informations. And the reason is we have so many informations hidden in each value, in each pixel, in each channel, that, you know, it doesn't really matter what we do with the adjustment. We can always go back and get back to the original values, because they are there, you know, they are still there. We didn't kind of compromise them. We didn't like delete them, or we don't, I would say we didn't go outside the limits of our image. Okay, in terms of course, in terms of informations we have inside each pixel in each channel. So here we can understand first thing, when we need to work with exposure, and not only exposure but also with gamma. Okay, because gamma is cool, because allow you to brighten up white areas without burning them, which is very cool. But this is something we are going to learn in the next videos. So these exposure and gamma correction has to be done on the 32-bit. That's it. There's no other way to accomplish this. There's no other, you know, if you try to do this in the 16-bit or the 8-bit, there's no way to work it out. And that's the reason why we save, when we save an image from 3ds Max or, you know, V-Ray, Corona, whatsoever, or Cinema, or, you know, any 3D render software, we save an XR file. We don't save a TIFF, we don't save a JPEG, we save a XR file, because in the XR file we can store all those informations. We can have a 32-bit image, and then we can have a better post-production. in Photoshop. Then the problem is when you have a 32-bit image, in Photoshop, unfortunately, there's no many things you can do. I mean, if you go here where you have the adjustments, you can select this, the 32-bit. You see, some of them are like grayed out, so you cannot, for example, work with color balance once you are in 32-bit. Or if you go into the filters, you see some of them are like grayed out. So, it's a kind of it's a shame that we cannot have a 32-bit workflow completely in 32-bit, but it's something, okay? And the trick will be that once we have the render and once we fixed some eventual problems about exposure, okay? I'm not saying that you don't have to make a beautiful render, a good render out of the box, but if you have some exposure problems, you don't care, because you can go in the 32-bit and play with the exposure. And of course we are going to see how to work with masks, so you can do whatever you want. And then once you're happy and you start the real post-production, you select the render, the 32-bit with all the adjustment, you right click and you convert to a smart object. We are going to see what is a smart object, but then a smart object will allow you to bring the scene to 16-bit without losing the ability to get back to the 32-bit any time. Okay, so this is the reason. 8-bit is still useful, but is not useful during the post-production, because you want to have informations while you play with an image. Okay, so for example, look at this. You see here we have the histogram of the 8-bit image, and it's fine. It's a pretty dark image. You see those values are on the left, so it's close to dark tones, dark values. Let's say I have a curves here, okay? So let's had it from the beginning. So I had a curve, and I put a little bit of contrast, and see what happens to the histogram once I have a little bit of contrast. You see, there's basically empty spaces now. Why that? Because if you have empty spaces now, I don't know why it's not getting bigger than this, but anyway, here you have empty spaces. And that means you have missing informations. Why that? Because if this pixel was, I don't know, 50% gray, and then I contrast, I move that pixel, and that pixel is now probably a little bit darker. And so maybe there's no more perfectly medium gray pixel in my image, and so I have a hole there. And so long story short, forget about post-production with 8-bit images, because as soon as you do anything, you lose informations. And if you lose too many informations, that means you are losing gradients. And when the image has no gradients, in technical terms, you say is crunchy. So, is not very, pleasant to see, and if you print it, is even worse, and it's not the right way. But said so, you can still save the final JPEG in 8-bit. Why that? Because anyway, the image has to be, will be portrayed on the monitor with that 8-bit look, and the client that get the image is not gonna touch it, is not gonna modify it, hopefully, and that's enough. Okay, so this is important. So we save in 32-bit from the render, from the render engine. We work in 32-bit if you need to work on exposure and gamma. Then we switch to 16-bit because we have enough informations, and because nobody has to change it, nobody has to touch it again.
Có một cái vấn đề mình cần làm rõ. Trước giờ mình toàn dùng mình dùng 16 bit đấy. Ok, thế thì giả sử như này đi. Quang cảnh như nào? bit. Ok. Chia màn hình ra làm 3 phần. Ơ kìa. Ok. 8 bit. Cái này là cái này xóa đi. Ok. 3 vertical setup. Ctrl 0. Cùng zoom vào cái này đi. Ok, cái này là 8 bit cái đúng không? Cái này là 16 bit. Cái này là 32 bit. Cái này là convert sang. Ở cái này mình đẩy sáng lên, đúng không? Cái gì nhỉ? Histogram. Cookie color, I don't need you. Swatches, gradient, pattern. Ui, thủng lỗ chỗ luôn. Đúng như ông ấy nói. Xong bây giờ mình lại kéo nó xuống đúng không? Cái này tăng lên 100. Cái này giảm xuống 100. Và như lúc đầu không xi nhê. Thế này bây giờ mình thử với export sùa đi. Lên 100 đi. Rồi lên 100 nữa. Được chưa? Cái này xuống 100. Cái này xuống 100 nữa. Cái này thì mới biết nha. Hay. Nếu mà chỉ hai cái này thôi ấy, thì bức ảnh nó vẫn bình thường. Nó không bị losing cái đó. Okay, thử sang bên này nhá. Bách cả 4 nơi này qua đi. Ok. Auto cái bip à? Tool scroll to over scroll. Còn một cái phím nữa mà mình phải đổi. Keyboard edit redo Ctrl Y nha. Ok. Cầm 3, 4 này qua phần này cho ta. Cầm 3, 4 này qua phần này cho ta. Wow. Wow. Tăng lên, giảm xuống vẫn còn. Shit. Đây khoản này nhé. Thì 32 và 16 giống nhau. 8 bit và 16 bit giống nhau. Nó đều bị hỏng cả. Pattern cũng giống nhau luôn. Pattern. Oh. Yeah, ok. Thật ra từ trước đến nay thì mình vẫn làm với 16 bit, đúng không? Vẫn 16 bit đây. Cái file nhớ vãi, làm như cái bếp vậy. Mình nhá, mình thấy nó bình thường nhỉ. Quên đi. Rồi, đã hiểu. Thật ra 8 bit và 16 bit có vẻ như nó không ảnh hưởng lắm. Mình làm thì mình vẫn làm trên 18 bit, 16 bit, đúng không? Nhưng rồi giờ mình đã hiểu mấy cái đấy rồi. Rồi mình sẽ hạn chế dùng những cái ví dụ một cái lớn đấy, một cái bước tiến lớn. Alright. So rất hay, rất hay. Color space and profile.
TV screens, computer monitors, and smartphones cannot reproduce such a high number of views on other devices. That's why we need to understand color space and color profiles. Let's start with color spaces. A color space is just a group of colors. It could be an arbitrary group like the Pantone collection or something with mathematical perfection like sRGB. Here we can see a representation of many color spaces compared together. So if we pick the space of all the visible colors, which looks like an horseshoe, we can easily see that, for example, sRGB can portray just a part of it. But unfortunately, that also means all the devices working in sRGB show fewer colors than those working in Adobe RGB. Then, why we don't work with Adobe RGB? Because the most extensive user base defines the standard. There are more sRGB devices on the planet than Adobe RGB. Apple created Adobe RGB to solve a significant printing problem since it covers the CMYK space entirely. That's one of the reasons why printing and graphic companies often work with Apple products and Adobe RGB. Anyway, a color space needs a color model, which is the way colors are represented. Think about this for
a color model. Define how to number each color in the card.
RGB or this for CMYK. 3 values between 0 and 255 define an RGB color, for example. Another way, a color model is a way we use to describe a color using numbers. 25500 is pure red, for example. To define a color space, all we need is to map those numbers on the visible color map, or if you prefer, to find the right place for each triple or quadruple. To do so, we need a reference. The usual standard reference is the lab color space, which was designed to englobe all the visible colors. Thus, we can define a color space with a function between our color model and the lab color space. The area covered by the color space is called gamut. Working on Windows with 3ds Max, we use sRGB as the standard color space. That's because 3ds Max works in sRGB, internet browsers work in sRGB, and monitors usually work in sRGBs. To ensure your image will be displayed correctly on other devices, you need to save an ICC profile inside it. In this way, in an ideal world where all the monitors are calibrated, whoever opens the file will know the color space we used and see the same result. Remember always to check the ICC profile when you save an image.
Okay.
What happens if we need to print an image in CMYK? Well, first of all, CMYK is not a color profile, but rather a color model. Therefore, both its problem replaced for digital 2.2, for Adobe RGB 1.8, etc.
Đại khái là nó giải thích về màu, mình thì cũng không cần hiểu cái này lắm, hoặc là mình không đủ kiến thức để hiểu. Layers.
With channels and path, these three tabs, press Ctrl Shift N and you get itself. So don't worry if you miss something there. Now the habit to we again let's hide it. So if you save the image, this is not going to be revealed. Okay. So just click in if you want the layer, and of course we have one layer. An adjustment layer is just a special layer that will modify what's behind. And in this particular case, I want a new layer with everything merged together. Now, if you want to merge everything together, you have different choices. The first choice is to select everything you want to merge together and press Ctrl Alt E on the keyboard. Ctrl Alt E. And then you have a new layer, which is the result of the layer you have selected merged together. Shift E, this next layer, will basically create a new layer with everything visible in it. Here, nothing happens. So you need to be sure that you have to be in a visible layer to use Ctrl Alt Shift E, and then it's going to work. Okay? And as you can see in this merged layer, there's no adjustment here. Okay? Because it was hidden. Now let's go back. You don't do it. You see adjustment. That's it. Control Alt and you can just add for the painting. So you're not here different types of on this artboard. Is the thing 500 layers, and you want to find like the kind of and so on. So you can search for color of the layer, and with this drop down menu, you basically set kind of research. So you LA inside and so on. So you can search for colors for if you want smart object, if you want to change, you want to isolate. This is pretty cool. This is pretty useful. If you want to like in this example, if you want a layer to modify just one of the other layers, you may want to attach that layer to the previous one. Now, how can we attach a layer? We can attach a layer by pressing Alt and going in the middle of the two layers and clicking with the left mouse button. It owns the whole file, so everything below it. But because I want are working only on powerful sound, and then if I paint now, as you can see, this layer is attached to the previous one, and so is using these masks as a mask, and this is pretty it's working only on that layer, and this is pretty powerful. Because the main thing is you don't have to make the same mask over and over again. Okay, now another thing we have in layers is the opacity. Opacity, it's here, and it's just the amount of do by not so here we have layer styles.
Layer style.
And for example, a layer style is a style that you really cool. It's not lie on top of the layer, like for example, I don't know, a stroke. See, the stroke is like a border. See, so if I have a border here, now this is not really have the fill opacity. So basically the fill opacity, if you go down, only the content of the layer is going to disappear, but the layer styles will still be visible. And sometimes it's very useful because, I don't know, you want to create like a shadow and you want just to see the shadow, not the content that create the shadow, or glow, or something like stuff like that, I would say. And of course I press cancel and I get back to my file. In one way to blend pixels, view a different result. Now, sometimes, they are good results, sometimes, they are not good, and you need to know exactly what every blending mode does in order to understand if you can use it or not. But anyway, sometimes you don't have to be afraid of trying them all, because you never know what surprise Photoshop have for you. Maybe you don't expect some result and you feel like they're good and you want to keep them, even if they are just happening by randomly, I would say. And if you have problem on top, so basically there are options, and you can scroll down until you see panel option here. Is the move tool. So here's then you are going to select automatically. I uncheck this, and of course now if I move, you see control, and the reason is every time I select a layer, I want to select when I a lot of time them and click on duplicate layers, and then here you can choose another document. Now if you have another document open, you will find this name here, or you can click on new and press OK, and they will be merged into
Layer, group, mask and channel. Wow. Nhiều đấy. Nhiều đấy. Hôm nay xem đi.
the name of the grid
Group Caption G
together with the content. It's better stuff.
Cái này thì mình biết rồi nha.
If you and there's no adjustment layer. So I mean, it's kind of a very rare, possibility that passes, and all the masks coming from the render engine. And in this way, we can have them always on the top, always available to be used, and when
Mask and channel.
and we will see a lot of stuff in this video to way to get masks even from render engines, or you can just make them manually with some tools here in Photoshop. But first, that's because we want to change only a particular about little different a black and white color percent name of this. What to do panel, and you can, for example, you want to select the red one, you can control click, and we talk that then you see now I have the selection, the content with control. You can make the selection by control clicking on the right channel, and then you make a new mask here, and then you invert the content with control I. And this is one way to have to save a mask as an alpha channel. And as you can see now I have the selection. I press Control D to unselect this area, but every time I want this selection back, I can control click on it as a mask. That's it. I can go back on the layers and then make a new layer and use this button here to apply that paint, modify corners around or insert stuff like this. So this is coming from the 3D software panels, for example, to make the selection white, and then go back to the layers, and I have the right selection to do something. And I don't know, you can also add an adjustment. For example, I had some curves, and when you have a selection and you add an adjustment, then the mask is made by itself, made automatically. And as you can see now, I can just make the mask from here in the section, and example, they're all masked. Z depth, and then I go into the channels and I click on the red or green or blue. In this case, is the same because it's a black and white image, so these three channels looks the same. And here I can have a new mask from the Z depth. Now, why we should have a mask from the Z depth? I don't know. Maybe we need to invert it, and this is the mask of the fog. So I can click on here, Control, and then I can go back on my render, and I can have a curve, and I can just get it brighter when it's far away. So I mean, this is not the right way to make a fog, but this is the right way to make the mask for the fog. And you know, masks are also useful when you need to make you know, quick selection inside a group where you have already a mask. So normally what the mask on the group is what I call the master mask, you know, and then maybe I want to change just, I don't know, something inside that area, and this I'm going to have paint here I click to leave out. It's what I've done in PSD, but this is not now interfering when you have masks with a little bit of transparency, as you can see here from the thumbnail. You need to put a black layer at the bottom. And
Ôi, cái này tự mình nghĩ ra được luôn, không phải xem. Wow, mà cái này không ai dạy nha. Mình tự
so
làm,
the
mình tự xem.
selection layer at the and that's the
Kiểu,
top of
cái này thì mình
invert
chụp.
this one control click on, there's no red, you know, the results. The only masks you are not going to be able to do are something like this one, because this one, you see, there's no red around this, but maybe you have the mask of the whole thing. You see, if you control click on a thumbnail of a layer, you will. So what to do if I want to select this one? Well, again, channels, red, shift, control shift to add green and blue, and click. And you see, I have now this selection, and then again with the rectangular tool, I can shift alt and do this, and now I have this mask too. So I mean, it's a little bit complicated, but it's doable. Okay, if you want, you can change some masks options. If you select the mask here, it's there in the borders of them, change which is bit mask coming from, and it use it. This is all as the pick. Long story short, you know, collision, or it's all the content. The content is completely, you know, on its own. If you move this one, the mask will stay. Is going to stay where it is, no matter
Where
what.
it is.
And then at
Where it is.
the end, if you do something, creep and to matte place, no matter what. And remember, if you are working with V-Ray 5, there's another way to create masks, which is called Cryptomatte. And you can find a link to a blog post of the Study01 Academy website to understand how to use them. And that's it.
Ok. Blending mode. Cái này chắc sẽ dài này. 8 phút thôi.
Below it image, and if you want to correctly black these and understand a little bit better how they work. Before starting, let's put a couple of names to understand this lesson
Blending layer, result, base layer, blending.
better. The top layer, which is the one where we apply a blending mode. So let's understand the difference and when to use them, or at least the most useful. And by the way, I need to say something before we start. There are many ways to explain blending modes, and since it's all a matter of math and values, it usually ends up pretty technical, dull, and unclear. So I will try to make it easier to understand, simplifying concepts and showing examples. I repeat, I will show you only the ones I usually work with. So the categories are normal, darken, lighten, contrast, comparative, and component.
Normal, darken, lighten, contrast, comparative, component.
The first one is the normal category, because you can see a new result only if you lower the blend layer opacity. We can use the normal blend mode to add reflections on areas without any. One example could be when we render glasses on a separate pass and we need to compose them on the base render. In this way, we can pick the
Ô, sao cái chat này nó không hiện nhỉ? Hello. Anh 26 tuổi rồi em ạ. Anh mãi ngồi học quá không để ý comment.
transparency manually.
Trời ơi. Ok. Từ từ. Chắc là hiện cửa sổ trò chuyện đi cho nhìn cho nó dễ nhỉ. Thật ra là cũng đều hay xem đâu. Nhưng mà thôi. Bật lên cho vui bro. Itachu. Mèo. Sina. Ok bro, mai nhé. Hai. Anh để chết ở công ty rồi.
Without re-rendering. The solve use noise to mix blend and base layer. I never used the solve once in my entire life. Without re-rendering. The solve use noise to mix blend and base layer. I never used the solve once in my entire life. The next category darkens the final result. Darken mode picks the darkest pixel between the blend layer and each channel of the base layer. That means that if we have a black and white image,
Black and white.
three channels are the same and darken shows the darkest pixel. So you can see from this example, the mid-gray disk disappears at 49% gray when we pull it over a gradient. When we have a colored blend layer, you will get a different result depending on the color mix. Darken is useful when you have a bright areas to fill with the darker value and you don't want to spend time masking. If you're using colors and darken doesn't work the way you expect, try darker color. Multiply, as the name suggests, multiply the luminosity. It could be straightforward to understand if you think about values in terms of luminosity. For example, black is 0% luminosity, so everything multiplied by 0 becomes 0. White is 100% luminosity, so anything multiplied by 100% stays the same. And the same way, mid-gray is 50% luminosity, so if we have a mid-gray layer on multiply, it will cut in half the image brightness. Multiply is the perfect blend mode to paint shadows, and it's also used to recreate a shader from scratch, multiplying together diffuse pass to a lighting pass. Color burn and linear burn effects to recreate a shader from scratch, multiplying together diffuse pass to a lighting pass. Color burn and linear burn effects produce a strong contrast and dark result if kept at 100%. I sometimes use them with orange or blue tones on a low opacity layer if I need to modify the light temperature. I prefer if lying together diffuse pass to a lighting pass. Color burn and linear burn effects produce a strong contrast and dark result if kept at 100%. I sometimes use them with orange or blue tones on a low opacity
Orange and blue tone.
layer if I need to modify the light temperature.
Light temperature.
I prefer linear burn over color burn because its contrast is less realistic. The next category, if I need to modify the light temperature. I prefer linear burn over color burn because its contrast is less realistic. The next category usually brightens the result. Lighten is darken or remove work in the way you need. Try. Another reason to use lighten is to replace a darker color in the base layer with a brighter one. If it doesn't work in the way you need, try lighter color instead. Screen, one of the most used blend modes, multiplies the inverse of the luminosity. Once again, it's not clear what that means, So here we go with an explanation. If you have a 50% gray layer on top, it will increase the actual brightness by 50%. If you have a 25% gray, which is a darker gray, it will increase the actual brightness by 55%. Black does not increase the brightness, and white, well, you can imagine. Screen is mainly used to create fog, smoke, got rays, increase the brightness, and white, well, you can imagine. Screen is mainly used to create fog, smoke, got rays, car light trails, but avoid it to make stuff brighter. Color dodge is a mind blower. Have you ever want to paint light on object in a realistic way? Well, color dodge is the blend mode for you. It's similar to screen, but it burns the result, especially on the borders. We will see how to use it in the following videos. Linear dodge add is similar to screen mode, but I use it only on 32-bit files to compose light mix passes from the Corona renderer. As seen in the previous video, you can use it also to check if some masks are missing. The next category contrasts the result and usually makes mid-gray disappear. Overlay use the dark areas of the top layer to darken the result and the bright spots to brighten the result. It's like having multiply and screen together. Contrasting the image or even adding colors on something black and white. For many reasons like adding details, sharpening your image, contrasting the result is more saturated if you have colors. So you can use overlay for many reasons like adding details, sharpening your image.
Oh, V-Ray to the lighting à?
Contrasting the image or even adding colors on something black and white. If overlay is too strong, you can use soft light, which is exactly like overlay but 50% less intense. Hard light, vivid light, and linear light, together with hard mix, are rarely used because they work with the same principles of overlay but burning the result. Pin light works it best with colors. I usually give it a chance when it's about to paint reflection of people on the floor. The next category applies math operation between layers. The only one I use is difference. The top layer color will become black if the same color is present on the bottom layer. With difference, we can correct an image white balance or check if someone stole become black if the same color is present on the bottom layer. With difference, we can correct an image white balance or check if someone stole your artwork. If you compare two images with difference and the result is entirely black, well, those are the same image. The next category is about hue, saturation, and luminosity. Hue and color are similar. Hue keeps the color of the top layer, but the luminosity and the saturation of the bottom one. Color keeps the color and the saturation of the top layer, taking only the brightness of the bottom layer. They are both useful when you need to change color to something, with the difference that color lets you also pick the saturation. Saturation keeps saturation of the top layer. However, I don't find myself using it.
Yeah.
Luminosity keeps the brightness of the top layer. It's pretty useful when you want to erase lights and shadows from a texture to flatten it, or when you are using adjustments like curves. Unfortunately, top layer
Không ai làm gì
how to erase lights and shadows from a texture to flatten it, or when you are using adjustments like curves. It's pretty useful when you want to erase lights and shadows from a texture to flatten it, or when you are using adjustments like curves. Unfortunately, when you contrast using curves, the image also gets more saturated if you forget to change the blending mode to luminosity.
Luminosity. Oh. À. Chị bà. Trời ơi. Thử ngay. Ví dụ. ví dụ đi, cái này mình lấy cái này, cái này coi như là cái trời này đúng không? Để cái gì nhỉ? Different, màu nó phải ra đen kịt cơ. Đấy, bây giờ nhá, bây giờ cho thế này đi. Giờ mình sẽ đi trổ tài, cao màu các thứ. Ói. Đúng không? Different, đen kịt, bỏ đi phát là nó đó. Càng đen thì nó càng giống. Chưa đúng số lượng. Ok, thật ra là cái đấy nó cũng blur lắm, chán tác dụng quá này. Introduce to filter ra không?
Go through all of them and see how they work. See if you're like these, a filter original content, which better if you are not first category here. It's all about lenses, and you can simulate distortion of the lens. You can do some post-production with the camera raw filter. You can correct the lens distortion, smudging over the image. And then we have filters about 3D, and this one, generate normal map, is pretty cool because sometimes when you have a photo and you want to put the photo on top of a render and you want to relight this photo or add some speculars, blur gallery and everywhere field blur, which is pretty depending or not even. The end, noise is a category that allow you to add, or you can also try to remove noise. Sometimes people do that. Your brain says, okay, normally you have a little bit more noise on the dark areas. Anyway, this part is about noise and noise reduction. Pixelate will fragment your image in different ways. Sometimes, I don't know, you want to simulate kind of a printed surface with the color off tone, or maybe you want to generate kind of a mosaic from a picture. Not very useful every day, but sometimes maybe you want to create something like this type of texture in the swimming pool from an image you have. Render is a generate sharp field focus. Action can allow you to hide your own photos and it will it's on there. And then in other, the high pass is pretty helpful because high pass will basically take away information from the image, starting from the big ones. And this is pretty cool when you have your own pictures, your own photos, and you want to take away light and shadows from there, and you can do that with this IPass tool and the luminosity tool. Now, no makes any sense doing this on a render, but it's just to show you. And that's it. So the filters are there, and of course you need to make a new layer and apply the filter on the layer. Now, in the next video, we're going to see what is a smart object and what smart filters are. As you will see in the next video, it will make a lot more sense to work with smart filters. You can apply to the layer, files, time. Here down here, you can the layer itself. We can go that scale here with the one of the channels that compose the image. So I want to hide the content itself. So opacity and fill opacity works the same here or here. And then here you have some options about advanced blending, and for example, channels will just hide or show one of the channels that compose the image. So if you take away red, for example, you will only get green and blue. And the same happens with the other channels. Now these
vẫn xem mà em chưa ngủ à? Xem cũng khá cuốn. Xem chứ lộn, không phải xem. không phải em.
Will create cool effects if you duplicate your layer and you take away one of the channels and then you move the content itself. This reminds me of those anaglyphic images that you know play with when you were a kid with those special glasses. Let's say you have a document with a text, a layer with a flat color and an image. You need to
Okay
select
bro. Okay bro. Okay bro. Thật ra nhé, cái đoạn đầu ấy anh vẫn cố xem, bởi vì bây giờ bảo Photoshop mấy cái ví dụ như kích thước file rồi image depth, màu, layer, group các thứ, có cái đếm gì mới đâu. Nhưng mà thật ra anh nhặt được, anh cũng muốn xem lại từ đầu xem nó dạy bài bản như nào. Anh nhặt được mấy cái mới rồi, mặc dù là đây chỉ là folder, đây chỉ là cái bước đầu tiên nhé, chưa đến mấy cái bước đằng sau. Mấy đằng sau anh nghĩ sẽ cuốn hơn, nhưng mà ban đầu ấy nó đã có một vài cái mới rồi. Mai anh đến anh nói cho hay cực.
the knockout layer. Go here, knockout. You can decide if you want to knock out shallow or deep, which means that shallow will punch through the first layer, deep will punch through.
Okay bro.
All the layers to the background. Let's say shallow.
Shallow.
And then you need to go down with the fill of this layer. And as you can see now, we are punching through the whole document. It's because we need to set up this layer as a background layer. So I click on this one and I go here, layer, new, background from layer. And as you can see now, this layer is locked. It's a background and we can see through. So I mean, this is not very useful, and it's pretty cool. You can do this without, and then blur it happens on.
Cái này đứa chả biết chơi.
Results. Now normally what happens with some inner glow,
Inner
if you
glow.
press OK and then you change the blending mode of this layer, you see it doesn't matter which blending mode you're working with, is not going to be visible because the layers will be on top of it anyway. So if you want to blend, if you want to mix this layer style together with the layer itself, blend into your effects as a group, be able to work with the blend modes, you need to double click on the layer to get the layer styles and click on this blend into your effects as a group. And once you do that and you press OK, then you can just change the blending mode, and as you can see, the result will take in consideration also the layers, attach them, pressing Alt and clicking in the middle. Blending mode of the first layer, the king layer, I would say, and it happens that even the top layer will get the same blending mode. But what if you want two different blending modes? You need to click, double click on the first layer and uncheck blend clipped layer as a group. And now the second layer will keep its own blending mode. So you can keep it normal or you can change it as you want. But
khoan xem nào. Nên mình chọn một cái. Mình blending mode nó. Okay.
Anyway, they would get two different blending modes and not the same one. Now let's see another couple of examples. Normally what happens is if you add a mask and you paint the mask black, the layer styles move to get the layer styles, and in the blending options you can turn off layer mask height effect. As you can see now, even if we paint the mask and also the layer mask height effects, now the layer styles are following the mask and not the content. If you close it, then painted mask, and the second one will be the vector mask. Tab, and click in here and draw a path. If you close it, then you will see the path here in the path list, in the path tab, and then if you had a couple of masks, the first mask will be a painted mask, and the second one will be the vector mask. As you can see, layer style will follow the vector mask. So if you don't want that, just double click to get layer styles, blending options, and check vector mask hides effects. And as you can see now, so if you double click on top layer to get layer styles, then you can choose to hide without masking values from it. So if you go here, blend if, and then you move sliders here in this layer, you can hide the dark tones or the bright tones. And as you can see, the line here is pretty sharp and noisy, but you can press Alt and click on the arrow to break it, open it, and make such fall off. We have now a layer without informations in between these 2 points. We can now, talking about layer style themselves, sides, emboss, and so on, we can change the depth of it. Something that you will find colors and angle will be this, the shape of on can very useful. Not the sphere, and have another one could be helpful. Of course, light click the kind of selection or the put a flat color, red, completing part here. A pattern outside,
Smart object and smart filter. Cầu mong đường dài. Sau này mình xem phết một phần luôn đấy. 10 phút à.
To layers like this, to double close it, we can get the preview and better in this example. And the other one is a smart object, and you can to the original size. The size is reason to use it, and you want to use smart, have some. If you have a normal area blur, some areas filters, and for example here I can add filter, which allow me to have some pins in some areas. So I will add some pin here and decrease the blurriness of the shadow, while I want this area to be very blurred. And then I press OK, and then maybe I understand this shadow is too blurry, so I want to get back. Now, if you have a normal layer, you can't get back once you press OK to a filter, but if you have a smart object, then you have smart filters. And smart filters, they have a mask in common, and also you can result. You can double click here and you can keep it as many times as you want. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
There are some cons about some informations, incredibly big probably, and because there is a lot of information hidden in it. Meanwhile, if you rasterize a layer in the post-production file, so file size is one con. Another con is that if you have a smart object, you cannot paint over it, because actually what you see is a photo of the real content inside of the smart. Then you don't have the ability to paint another mask for another filter. So every filter inside the smart object will share the same mask. Right click again, convert and a different mask. Right click on it and click on convert file size. Then because you have a smart object doesn't mean you can create more pixels, more information. If you press on place embedded or place linked, what's the difference? Now with place B, okay, if you click on place linked, is going to be a smart object, but for the content I like for and the size I like for this particular level. If I'm aware, if I'm afraid that the file size will increase too much, I can just rasterize the layer. So what that means, it means you destroy the smart object and you accept the actual look of your layer. So to do so, you need to right click on the smart object and then click on rasterize layer, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Now, as you may know, with Ctrl J you can duplicate a layer, and it happens also with smart objects. So I have this marked object. The image, the original here, will be now. If you want to replace the object, or you can use replace content if you want to keep the content embedded in your PSD. Okay, but look at this. If you do that and you take another content, then all of them will change because it's the same link. What if you can image and
Để xem nhé. Cái mình vứt từ cái này vào đi. Rồi, mình sẽ dán cái này lên tường, giả sử thế. Quảng cáo bất động sản các thứ hiểu không? Thế này đi. Ok. Rồi mình có thể replace content. Cái này được không? Oh. No. Replace content. Nó bị lệch ấy. Cũng chả biết sao cả. Ok đi.
if you do this, replace content.
Ok. Xong. Hôm nay mình đã gọi là xem hết một phần. Xem hết phần 1 của SOA, phần cơ bản nhất. Hôm sau mình sẽ xem The Secret Behind Great Post Production. Sau đến sẽ là Active Post Production. Ok. Và mình nghĩ là đi xong hai phần này chắc cũng phải mất hơn tuần. Ok. Đi đánh răng xong lên giường ngủ thôi. Chắc không có ai xem nữa đâu nhỉ.